I had that. I told the guy, I said, they were still paving when he called me. He said, you're not making this wide enough. I said, we're going to make this wide. It needs to be wider. So I'm going to do something. I said, okay, I'll call them. Stop. He's not going to go for it. He made it bad. And then the speeders, as soon as we pay the road, I'll get a call. Hey, y'all got to do something. What do you mean? You tell them, well, we can come out and do it. We had one, some private roads, city owned, sufficient land. But it's because we didn't open it up, that we needed to slow the traffic down. But they're that part. I don't make practice.
Testing 1 2.
capacity. If you would, please stand, and I'm going to ask Roger Simpson to lead us in our pledge of allegiance, and then that'll be followed by our invocation by Judge Wade White.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pray with me, please. Lord, I just thank you so much for this beautiful day you've given us. Lord, thank you so much for our counties and our cities that we are represented here today. Just be with us as we make decisions. Lord, thank you so much for those that serve both here and overseas. Fallen so far from our privilege. Lord, we just thank you so much for them and their families, sacrifice that they make. Lord, just be with us today as we make our decisions. Thank you so much for all that you do for us, for what you did for us on the cross. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Our first item of business is the approval of our minutes. If you had a chance to take a look through those, I'd entertain a motion to be approved. Motion by Arthur Green, second by Scott Marshall. Any questions, comments, or corrections? None being noted, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Next up is our financial report, and I'll ask Ms. Alicia Sutton to come forward.
Good morning. Everybody should have a copy of the financial report in their packet. And as of October 31st, we should be at 33 1/3% of our budget. Overall, we are at 27.9%, and all line items are within the budget, so there are currently no concerns. If there's any questions or any concerns, on the budget as of this time.
Thank you, Alicia. Hearing no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion the financial report be approved. Mayor Cotton, second. No questions or comments, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. In your packet, you'll find a copy of the upcoming schedule of meetings for this month. One note in particular will be our December meeting, which will be held as tradition has it at Pennyrile State Park. And so we look forward to seeing you all there, and then the rest of the meetings, for those of you that participate in those, please take note of those as well. We'll move on then to our federal and state reports, and I believe we have Ms. Morgan Alvey with Senator McConnell's office online. So Morgan, are you with us? Possibly. Okay. We'll move on.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are, Morgan. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I called in, but I think I still had to hit the unmute on my screen. Our computers in our Senate offices, they're not very Zoom friendly, so I apologize. Just briefly, I'll mention a quick legislative update. Senator McConnell continues to fight against the Democrats' proposed multi-trillion-dollar tax and spending spree, also known as the Build Back Better plan, which passed the House last week. Democrats are trying to use a procedural process known as budget reconciliation, which would allow them to bypass the Senate's 60-vote filibuster threshold and pass the bill on a purely party line vote. But they have to get all 50 Senate Democrats on board and aren't there yet. As always, if there's ever any way our office can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Just a reminder, if any of you have any federal competitive grants that you're applying for, we're always happy to write letters of support for most of those programs. So don't hesitate to ever reach out if you have any questions about any particular grant program that you're interested in applying for, and we may be able to provide a letter of support for that. That's all I have, but thanks again for letting me say a few words.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, Morgan. Now with Senator McCall's, or Senator Paul's office, we have Ms. Rachel McCubbin. Rachel.
Thank you so much. Since we do have people joining by Zoom, I'll come up here real quickly just to say, Morgan, thank you for that. I would ditto what you just got through saying, and Hello, wherever it is you are out there in cyberspace. I'm going to be here for the rest of the meeting. We'll stick around afterward. If anyone has any questions you'd like to direct to me so that I can pass them along to Senator Paul. I want to say that he is traveling in Eastern Kentucky today, tomorrow, the rest of the week, and we had him in West Kentucky on the last recess, so we had to share him. That's just the way it works. I want to thank the PeADD office for their hospitality when we brought some possible new business clients here a few days ago. Thank you for all you guys are doing, and I'll be around after the meeting if there are any questions for Senator Paul. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, next I will ask Mr. Corey Elder with Congressman Comer's office to come forward, please.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to provide a quick update from Congressman Comer. The transportation bill did pass the House. Congressman Comer pushed to remove different parts of the transportation bill that wasn't related to the hard needs of our transportation needs in this state, in rural Kentucky. He wanted to remove a lot of the parts that did get brought down, the total cost of the package, and we're glad that it got a lot of those extra parts removed to protect us from inflation. Congressman Comer is looking forward to seeing. Let me stop 1 second. One other bill that Congressman Comer is pushing for right now, there is a bill to remove some of the restrictions or the red tape on some of the ARPA funding. It will allow 30% of the funds to be used with less restrictions to going into the different county projects. And so that should open up some funding opportunities that you all are looking at in your areas. Morgan mentioned the Build Back Better bill, and there's a lot of things in there that would definitely hurt us in Western Kentucky. Congressman Comer's pushing against them. Morgan mentioned some. I wanted to mention the stepped-up basis and the 1031 exchange that will really impact our farmland. That some projections say that if the farmland will be depressed about 20% in value if some of those changes go through, and that just impacts all of our land values in Western Kentucky. And Congressman Comer is pushing against a lot of that. If there's anything that our office can do to help, especially when it comes to trying to navigate some of these large federal funding bills, please give our office a call and we'll be happy to help. Thank you all.
Thank you, Corey. I believe we also have online with us Representative Melinda Prunty. Representative Prunty.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry I'm not there in person. Hopefully I can be there in the near future. I just want to echo what Rachel said about all the help that PeADD gives, all the grant funding and help that you give my communities. You're making a difference. So I appreciate that. We're getting ready to go back, gearing up to go back in a session. We're hearing about different issues that we're probably going to address. Of course, we're going to have to do redistricting first, probably first couple of weeks, and then we've got to craft the budget. It's the long session. I'm hoping we move forward with more tax reforms. I think they made a difference in the revenues that we had and that were helpful in fighting the pandemic. I'm hoping we do finish public assistance reform. I think that'll go a long way to help empower people to get in the workforce and use their skills and talents. So we're going to be dealing with those kinds of things. We're going to be having to follow up with COVID issues and funding from that. And I just want to give a shout out to Chair Petrie, Chair of A&R. I feel like he's done a very good job of being methodical about how those funds have been used and accountability measures that are built in to try to make sure that they're being spent wisely and not just random. So that's kind of what's on the radar for us. And I can't wait to hear from my favorite district road engineer. She's always responsive and helpful, and I look forward to hearing her report today. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Prunty. Next, I would like to ask and recognize Mr. Alex Caudell, Field Representative with Governor Beshear's office. If he would come forward, please, Alex.
Thank you, Judge. Good to be with you all today. Normally, you would have seen Elton Thomas here, but Elton's moved on to Louisville, and he's working on his degree there. U of L. So wish him all the best. And until we have a new field rep here for the Pennyrile, I'll be covering in the interim. If you all need anything, I live in Henderson, so not too far away at all. I'll say this has been the Pennyrile month, or the Pennyrile couple of weeks with the governor. He's been in most all of your counties here recently, Judge, in Todd County with the Nobilis groundbreaking. Congratulations on that. Over 100 new jobs there, in addition to the 1,100 new jobs that have been announced by the governor in the last 2 years just in West Kentucky. Christian County and Trigg County as well, $10 million to each of them for the vocational schools there. Congratulations to those school districts. And we know they certainly worked hard for those grants and certainly deserve them. And we hope to see you all Wednesday in Morton's Gap in Hopkins County at 3:30 for a cleaner water announcement with the governor at the city park there. So I look forward to seeing you all then. If you all need anything from DLG or the governor's office, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll hang around afterwards with some cards. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Alex. Next, I'd like to introduce and bring forward, if you have any comments, Mr. Doug Taylor with Rural Municipal Aid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really don't have anything of general information for the entire group, other than to follow up on some of the things that Alex said. Also, in addition to those water grants, education grants, and some things like that, the governor's made some announcements of some upcoming funding for local transportation issues, as well as some funding that was announced when travel wasn't as easily done, and now that he's able to get out. So I know in Hopkins County, Wednesday, there'll be an announcement for some funds that Judge Whitfield's actually using right now. Judge Tribble and Christian County were awarded some money to take care of an issue out on Davis Road Bridge. But those are specific issues. And again, for general information, not a lot, but should you have specific needs or specific questions specifically, sorry about all the specifics, but for rural roads and municipal aid, I will be around after the meeting today, and I look forward to talking to each and every one of you about your local needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. And ordinarily at this time, I would introduce Ms. Denitra Henderson, District 2 Chief Engineer, but she's our guest speaker today, so I'm going to wait and do that in a more official capacity here in just a little bit. Would also like to recognize the Executive Director for the Kentucky County Judge Executive Association is with us today, Mr. Todd Ruckle. And Todd, you got anything you'd like to share with your group? Sure.
Good to be down here in West Kentucky, and although I don't know a lot of you, my background is from the eastern part of the state, but get down there in Western Kentucky, I had a beautiful drive in, drove actually from my hometown, which is in Lewis County this morning. It took me about 5 hours to get here, but I enjoy coming all over the state and visiting with you guys. But just real briefly, my background, I was a former county judge, I was a former mayor, and also a magistrate. And so I've dealt with the PeADD district for several years. And I want to congratulate or recognize Jason and his staff for all they do. I know you all know what they do for your communities, but they were my extended staff when I was in those positions, and I couldn't have done it without them. So as far as our association, we are in the process of setting priorities, and I'm so glad I'm here today to hear what the transportation department's got to say, because that's always been our top priority since I've been around, and it remains our top priority again is additional funding down to the local level. But again, I'll be around as well, as most of them mentioned. If you got anything on the county government side or back in Frankfort you want to talk to me about that I may be able to help you with, feel free to catch me afterwards. Thank you all.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate you being here today. And, I'll mention, in addition to what Todd said with respect to our PeADD staff being extended members of our staffs, Todd serves that same purpose for judge executives across the state and does a great job. So, Todd, just appreciate everything you do as well. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
Yes, sir.
Tony Wilder is on as well. I don't know if he can.
Okay, sure. As Jason just informed me, we have Mr. Tony Wilder, who is Executive Director of the Area Development Districts, with us online. Tony, you got anything you'd like to share?
I just wanted to offer my greetings from the capital city, and I may make some comments later during Jill's report with some matters relevant to our aging programs and our healthcare programs. So, but glad to be with you all today.
All right, thank you, Tony. Appreciate you being with us. All right, we'll move on then to our, let's see, first and foremost, did I miss anyone at all? I think we got everybody covered. All right, we'll move on then to our agency reports, and first on our list is Community and Economic Development, Ms. Amy Crowe.
Thank you, Judge. Got a couple of items in your packet that I want to bring to your all's attention this afternoon. Each year, the Pennyrile ad is tasked to update our Comprehensive Economic Development Strategies document, or what we refer to as our CEDS document. And we do this in order for our communities to remain compliant with the Economic Development Administration. This compliance ensures that our communities are eligible to apply for and receive funding from the EDA excuse me, for economic development related projects. That document does serve as the region's primary guide for economic development activities in the region. This year, the annual review and update included primarily updated census data and tables, as well as an updated list of projects for our communities, which EDA does require to be in there. Additionally, with the addition of our disaster resiliency planner, an economic recovery and resiliency report was added as an appendix to the document. That document addresses the COVID-19 pandemic, how it affected our region. It also provides an analysis by sector, how EDA plays or could play a role in our recovery efforts. The report also outlines mitigation efforts and strategies to address future pandemics. Hopefully we won't ever have to use that, but we do outline 6 goals and objectives that the region needs to focus on to make us more resilient to those future disasters. So this CEDS update has been sent out to you all as a board and our economic development professionals for review and comment. I do have a resolution in your packet. This will give us our official adoption by our board, and we can get this document onto EDA for their approval.
All right, Amy has provided a summary of the resolution fairly well. Unless someone requests me to read that resolution, I would entertain a motion with it be approved. Mayor Cotton, seconded by Mayor Yance. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, like sign.
The second item I have, if you will refer to your packets, you'll see a flyer that has this yellow strip on the left-hand side. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is currently in the process of updating their long-range transportation plan. This plan is a document that identifies the goals, policies, needs, and analysis tools that set the direction of Kentucky's multimodal transportation system, looking on towards 2045. It's hard to believe that we're talking in those numbers as far as years are concerned. The Transportation Cabinet is encouraging a large, diverse participation in the survey, and they've asked us to help spread the word about this survey and encourage your all's participation. On this flyer, it gives you a brief overview of the plan, and it gives you a couple of ways to access that survey. That website is gettheiretogetherkentucky.org, or you can scan that QR code there on the side, and that should take you directly to that survey. The survey is open until December the 6th. I'll be sending out an email later this week with a direct link to that survey just for your all's convenience. Please feel free, once I send that email out, to pass that along to your colleagues, friends, and family, so we can get a diverse amount of input on that survey. And lastly, in the newsletter, I just want to draw your all's attention. We currently have a funding opportunity available for our volunteer fire departments under the FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. If any of you all are interested in applying for that, I see Terry shaking his head. Please get with our staff and we'll be glad to help you out with that. Thank you.
First in line.
Thank you, Amy. Next is our area agency on aging and independent living update, and Ms. Jill Collins and Amanda Stokes, I think, are going to take that one.
Good afternoon. In your packet, you'll have some information from the PowerPoint that I think we're getting ready to pull up here in just a second. But the first piece of information I wanted to review are our meals through our nutrition program, and specifically the increase in the number of meals that we have provided throughout the pandemic, which for us officially started right around March of 2020. And so in your handout, you can see the graph, and I want to draw your attention to the green line in the graph, and that line indicates our COVID-funded home delivered meals. And so as you can see, those numbers far exceed our other meals that are being provided. And throughout the pandemic, we have provided a total of 457,776 meals. So that is an enormous amount of meals for this area, considering our population. And throughout the pandemic, when we look at the total of unduplicated clients served, it's just over 2,700 individuals. And so moving forward, the COVID meals are temporary. And so moving forward, we will be evaluating our funding and what that looks like moving forward, and how we're going to be able to proceed with those meals in the future. And so we will continue to keep you updated on what that looks like, specifically after the first of the year. The next slide is regarding our senior centers. You all know that we reopened our senior centers after a long closure due to COVID back in July. We've had a couple of other temporary closures if we've had a positive case in the centers for safety precautions. But as you can see, our average daily attendance in August, which was shortly after the reopening, was right at 179. The average daily attendance in September was 166. And our average daily attendance in October is 165. So as you can tell, our in-person attendance is not quite what it was prior to the pandemic, with those prior numbers at 232 as an average daily attendance. We have made the decision to continue our curbside meal pickup indefinitely. So individuals that aren't necessarily comfortable coming into the senior center to eat their congregate lunch in person, they do have that continued option to pick that up as a curbside pickup meal, and they can take it home and eat it at their house. So the next slide, please. It is open enrollment time for Medicare that runs through December the 7th. We have trained benefits counselors in all of our counties that are part of the senior centers. So if you have individuals or family members that need assistance in looking at what kind of plan through Medicare that they want to consider during open enrollment, give your local senior center a call, and you'll be scheduled with a benefits counselor to help with that process. I don't know if any of you have tried to navigate open enrollment for yourselves or with a loved one. It is extremely complicated. There are a lot of options and a lot of different things to consider, especially when you're looking at your prescription drug coverage, which can be very expensive. So we're fortunate to have the trained benefits counselors in our area that can help our citizens with that process. Next slide. We are still working on our COVID-19 vaccine grants. We have about 4 in progress right now, but the 2 that I want to bring your attention to are in regards to Christian County. We have one from the National Council on Aging that is specific to Christian County only because of the low numbers of vaccinations in the county, and that has been a successful partnership with the Christian County Health Department. We've come alongside them to help with some outreach and some marketing on their vaccine incentive and outreach process. We've also recently received a new grant from the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky, and this one is specific to Crittenden County. It's a small grant. We're hoping to get started on that later this month, and that will be a partnership again with the local health department that covers that county and the local senior center. Our next slide is going to be regarding our federal NAPIS report, and I'm going to ask Amanda Stokes, who is our aging planner and in-home service manager, to come forward and give you a little detail on the NAPIS report and what that means for our district. Good afternoon. The NAPIS report is the National Aging Program Information System. It's an annual report that we complete, and it has very specific parameters about what information has to be included and how that has to be reported. It takes into consideration consumer demographics, the service units that we provide, and our financial expenditures. That information is also used in order to help monitor our program performance and for budgeting purposes as well. It includes a variety of programs, which include our in-home services, nutrition services, supportive services, our national family caregiver program, as well as some of our Title VII elder abuse prevention services. It's a very lengthy report that takes quite a bit of time in October of each year to compile. We submitted our federal fiscal year 21 report on October the 28th. And that was successfully submitted. In the past years, we have always been given instructions to use certain codes for our zip code designation, meaning that all of our cities we serve outside of the Hopkinsville city limits were considered to be rural populations, with Hopkinsville city limits being our only urban population. However, if you go to the next slide, Tim, thank you. However, at the federal level, they have decided to make a change to that as of October 1st, 2021. We are moving to what they call the RUCA codes, the Rural Urban Commuting Area Codes, which will make some changes for us with our zip code designations. These codes take into consideration several factors, including population density per square mile, urbanization, and daily commuting routes. This will potentially impact our future federal funding because there are weighted formulas for the urban versus rural populations that we serve, primarily more weighted toward the rural populations. And if you'll look at the list, you'll see that in Crittenden County, Hopkins County, Muhlenberg County, Todd County, and Trigg County, we are going to be changing the status for several of those areas that have always been considered rural that will now be urban. Some of these may be a little surprising to you, as some of them are very small areas. But based on the RUCA codes that the federal level decided that we were switching to, it made these changes for us. Some of the things that they took into consideration are micropolitans, metropolitans, small towns with high and low commuting areas, and rural areas. So we do anticipate some changes potentially with federal funding because of these. We have reached out for some additional information, but have been told that this was decided at the federal level. And going forward, this is the system that we'll be using for those designations. Thank you all. Thank you, Amanda. In the past, we've always mentioned the NAPIS reports, but we've never gone into a whole lot of detail. But I felt it was important today to make you all aware of how those funding formulas are weighted, with so many of our areas being a rural area, and what those changes are going to look like for us moving forward. So we are going to run some of the NAPIS, hopefully here in the next couple of months, since it's already become effective. And we're hoping that after maybe the first of the year, then I can have Amanda come back up with some of the reports just to show you any changes or differences that we may possibly see on that. So just felt like it was important to make you aware. So moving forward, there won't be any surprise if we do see some changes on that report and allocations. In your packet, you'll also find some information on our wait list. That's just for your review. It's broken down by county if you have any questions. And it's also the time of year where our ombudsman, Cindy Tabor, is going to be working on the Forgotten Angels program. And so if you're interested in participating or assisting with that, there's information in your packet for that as well. And the last item I had is in regards to Veterans Day. I know the judge has recognized our veterans today, and I too want to thank you for your service. If you are a veteran, you know that the Area Agency on Aging is a provider of the Veteran Directed Care Program in Kentucky, and we oversee all of Tennessee. on that program as well. So if you are a veteran or you know of a veteran that is needing assistance with services or how to access any of their veterans benefits, please reach out to us and let us help you with that. Thank you.
On the front of your newsletter, before Jill sits down, just wanted to draw your attention to an award that Jill and her team received at the NATO conference a couple of weeks ago for all of their work that they did up to this point during COVID with the home delivered meals and drive-through meals. It was recognized. You all should have received an email about that, but I did want to recognize her here in the meeting. So congratulations, Jill and your team, and thank you for all you do.
Mr. Chairman, may I offer just a brief supplemental comment or two?
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, from my perspective, up here in Frankfort as council executive director, I just want to say how I continue to be impressed by Jill and her staff and all of our aging and disability staff across the state about the work they have accomplished in these tough times, and those awards are well deserved. I also wanted to follow up. I know that Jill and Jason both have probably advised the board of our, it's now become about a 2-year effort to establish the Kentucky Healthcare Connections Program. As you may recall, real briefly, that initiative is where we have voted as a council and the ad directors group as well to move into an expansion to deliver home care services by contract with other healthcare providers. And we've made substantial progress here recently. And we will be having a pilot project, hopefully consummated by contract with Green River Ad in the coming weeks. And that will be our pilot project for delivering services on behalf of Aetna. And Aetna has agreed tentatively to us becoming a partner. We have to now consummate it with some details with a contract, but the pilot project will be with Green River Ad. And then the next 2 counties in the initial phase will be Pennyrile and Fiveco from up in East Kentucky. So I did want to advise you of that. You may recall Bill Cooper is the business development manager that was hired a couple of years ago by the ad directors and the council to sort of see this process through. We're all excited about now we've reached the point where we may have a contract, and then hopefully that can expand into other medical providers from Anthem to WellCare. But we will be partnering with Aetna, I think, in the next coming weeks at Green River Ad, and then moving to Pennyrile. So again, I want to thank all the folks in the aging staff and the home care folks for the work they do under difficult circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. All right, at this time, I would ask Ms. Sheila Clark to come forward and give us an update on workforce development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. We have 2 or 3 items we wanted to remind you of today. Tomorrow, November the 9th, at 10 a.m., we will have a partners meeting via Zoom to look at the various planning activities that we must go through, as well as the impact that COVID has had on the planning activities we would normally have in workforce. And that is pretty much a partners discussion because they all have strong opinions on that. But if anybody would like to join us, we can give you the link for that. It's about an hour or so process that we would have in place there for discussion. And then on November the 18th, the West Kentucky Workforce Board will have a full meeting via Zoom, and we'll have several topics being discussed regarding current policy and procedure. We will also have an invitation that's already been sent to Secretary Link, and we hope that he can join us, but we haven't heard back from him. And as a follow-up to that point, Friday morning, we were invited to be on a call with Secretary Link And in that call, Secretary Link was speaking for the Labor Cabinet and for the Education and Workforce Development Cabinet. And he notified us that the two cabinets would now be acting as one, and that he would be in charge of the overall activities of the two cabinets as secretary, and that the current Secretary of Education and Workforce Development would be serving I'd say a lesser role. And then in the Labor Cabinet, Vicki Wise would be the one that would be serving that same and similar role there. At this time, there was no official release from the governor's office or from the cabinets on that position. So we're waiting to see what that official notification would be. He did indicate that closer to the legislative meetings that would occur in January, that he would be putting out an organizational chart with much more detail concerning this emphasis of change, and they're working together as one cabinet. He did not say that there would only be one cabinet. He indicated they would be working together as one cabinet. So we'll certainly keep you advised on that as we move forward. We're not quite sure how that will impact us, as we have activities under workforce that would go in both of those cabinets. So we are excited to hear that there would be a leadership change there as far as one group looking at the leadership of those cabinets. I also wanted to talk just a minute about, with all the changes that we have seen with COVID, some of the workforce activities have gotten caught up in those changes. And we do have still our career centers open. You can have individuals come into the centers for all services except for UI, and unemployment insurance has to be found an appointment online, and then you would come into the center for that appointment. And those UI services are restricted to only those that gain an online appointment. We have other individuals that can come in and use computers, have appointments with the other partner agencies that are in the facility. And most of the time, you can see someone, if you come to the center, about any other topic except UI at the time that you're at the center. But we do encourage people to call and make an appointment to be sure that the staff they want to see would be in the center that day. Also, in looking at some of the impacts of COVID, in the organization of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that passed in 2014, we're looking at having to redo our interlocal agreement that all the 17 counties participated in. And due to that, we will be writing a new draft of that agreement, and we'll be asking all of our county judges in the Purchase and Pennyrile and the 17 counties that the board covers to review a draft, and then we are required to bring the local director together with the board and then with our local officials. And in those discussions, we would approve that new interlocal agreement. If there are any policies that have changed, we would reference that in that agreement. And one example of a policy that's changed is about 4 years ago, when we started doing some of the new activity, we had to procure a fiscal agent / subrecipient. And now we do not have to procure that. They can be appointed by the local officials. So that is a plus for us. It's one less procurement document that we have to go through. So we'll be talking about examples of policy changes that we might have to include in that interlocal agreement this time around. And we have as our chief elected official from the Purchase counties is Judge Todd Cooper. And then we have as our chief elected official from the Pennyrile counties as Judge Steve Tribble. And they are your primary contacts for activities outside of myself. If you have questions or concerns about any of the language that's in that agreement now. And then after we look at a draft agreement and we reach out to each one of your courts, and then we would be coming back and having a meeting among all the local officials in the purchase and the Pennyrile. And so that we're hoping that we can get a draft agreement back out to you. We have no specific change that we as a board would like to recommend to you. We'll just be updating any policies that the state requires us to. We'll be working with Mike Foster to try to get that out to you in the next few weeks. I did want to comment. I asked Tom to comment on this earlier, but he didn't step in to join us, so I'll make a comment that we did have a successful job fair. We didn't have the high numbers that we'd had last time, but everybody that came into the job fair was very serious about trying to find a job. There were lots of job offers that were made, and the companies that were there were very interested in the quality of the worker that came through. So that was a plus for the people that were there. Any comments or questions? I'd be happy to answer those today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sheila. All right, we'll move on now to new business. First on the list is our monthly code of ethics report, and we've had no issues with respect to the ethics policy. So we'll move on then to our next item of business, and that is to hear from our guest speaker. As I mentioned, she is the Chief District Engineer for the District 2 office of the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet up in Madisonville. She graduated in 2004 with as a graduate of Western Kentucky University with a degree in civil engineering, and began employment with Transportation Cabinet in District 3 at the Bowling Green office as an engineering scholarship student in June of 1998. She has a strong aptitude for highway safety and has served as the Highway Safety Improvement Program Coordinator since 2005. She also served as Planning Section Supervisor for District 3 while there. And in 2018, Ms. Denitra was appointed as the Chief District Engineer in District 2, where she is currently serving. Those counties served by her office include Caldwell, Christian, Davis, Hancock, Henderson, Hopkins, McLean, Muhlenberg, Ohio, Union, Webster counties, and provide service for more than 3,200 miles of state maintained roadways. If you would, please join me in welcoming Ms. Denitra.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. I told Emily I wish that we had spotlighted her more because Emily is actually our featured speaker today, and my job is simply to introduce her. I do want to give a little update. I think Judge Newcomb was scared to let me give an update after Representative Prentice's award of favorite Chief District Engineer, because I may have allocated all this infrastructure money to Muhlenberg and Hopkins County, which would be fine, right? But speaking of the infrastructure funding, that is something that I will say in a quick update that the Transportation Cabinet, we don't have meetings and plans or anything, any plans for this funding yet, because up till, I mean, it's not signed into law. And so our understanding is that any additional funding to transportation may be, and I'll let our partners in Congress confirm it or not, may be application based. And so we would have to, specifically, I know that everyone will be thinking, well, what about the I-69 bridge? Will that get built? And so just to answer that question before Emily gets started, the cabinet would have to apply for the funding through a grant application type cycle is my understanding. I'm not seeing any nods or head shakes either way. So we'll just have to wait and see when the bill comes out and finds out for sure. So again, Emily is our featured speaker today, and I'll give a quick update on Emily. I know this group has heard from I-69 presenters multiple times. I know Mindy Peterson, I think, was the last one that came and spoke as far as once the environmental document was approved, she came and gave a presentation of where we are now. And so that's what Emily will be covering now, is from the point where Mindy spoke about the environmental document. There have been numerous meetings about how do we build the first section of the I-69 Ohio River Bridge crossing. And so this section will go from where I-69 is now up to where the bridge will take off. And so Emily will give some of that. And then the next section, which is the bridge, the structure will be funding dependent as well. So I'll read Emily's bio real quick and then let her get up here. She is also a transportation engineer for the Department of Highways. She graduated from the University of Kentucky in 2011, but then she got her master's degree from UK in 2012. She was also a scholarship student like I was, and she obtained the scholarship in 2007. Nearly all of her career, she has been a construction engineer. And so you all will see that when she gets up here, that she is one of our more experienced, if not the most experienced construction engineer we have on staff. She has more than 10 years, right at 10 years of construction experience. And she's always level-headed, has good advice, and the contractors respect her. And so I know she's a good candidate to construct this next section of I-69 and then also ultimately the bridge. So I'll turn it over to Emily.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me today. Like Denisha said, we have been here before and presented, but it's good to be back and share some good news because we've made a lot of progress since Mindy was last here talking to you all. So just to give an overview of what we'll be talking about today, we'll take a brief look back because there has been a tremendous amount of work and history with this project. We really want to focus on looking forward because that's the exciting part. Construction is going to be starting very soon in Kentucky, and there's already pre-construction activities taking place in Indiana. Then I'll go through some major improvements to interchanges and then talk about the next steps that we'll be taking. You can go to the next one. And you can go to the next slide. I really like this picture because it really tells a story of why this corridor is so important to the state. It's a key missing connection regionally and in the national corridor. I-69 will eventually stretch from Mexico to Canada, and this will be a new north-south interstate connection that will open a door for many new opportunities. Both states have made major investments in the I-69 corridor. In Kentucky, we have more than 100 miles of parkway that have been upgraded to interstate standards. And we now have 126 miles of I-69 in place, stretching from Mayfield to Henderson. Indiana has completed 116 miles of I-69 from Evansville to Martinsville. And by the end of 2024, the I-69 route from Evansville to Indy will be complete. So looking back some, many of us know this project has been a long time in the making, and conversations about building this bridge have began decades ago. In fact, we even started down this road with an environmental study 17 years ago in 2004 when the draft environmental impact study was published. But at that point, the project was stalled due to lack of funding, and not being able to identify funding meant you weren't able to get a ROD. You can go to the next slide. You weren't able to get a ROD, the record of decision for federal highways. The states got together in 2016 and said that this is a priority and signed an agreement to relaunch the study. And early the next year, the project team began work. Since then, we have reached several milestones. The environmental study was just complete, and this is big. This just happened last month, and it's a milestone that you have to reach in order for construction to even begin. These environmental studies are important, and they have to be completed on large projects to receive federal funding. The ROD, the record of decision, was also issued in September by the Federal Highways, and this is also very important because it is FHWA's seal of approval, and it signifies that they approve our selected alternative. And the all-important ROD also gets us that major step forward to move to construction. So next, moving to construction, what are we going to build? What was the selected alternative? And the selected alternative includes a 4-lane bridge over I-69 over the Ohio River, and we will retain one of the US 41 bridges for local traffic. Only the I-69 bridge will be tolled. There will be 11 miles of new interstate, and that will include 8.5 miles of new terrain and some upgrades to the existing US 41 corridor. And construction for the I-69 ORX project is actually divided up into 2 sections. The next slide shows section 1, and it is in the Henderson. It's on the Kentucky side. And this is basically the approach to the bridge. And this takes you from Kentucky 425 to US 60. And KYTC will be overseeing this project. And I will go into more detail of the improvements that we're going to be making to this corridor. The investment is nearly $230 million. And the most exciting part is that we will begin construction next year. The next slide shows section 2. And this is the big stuff. This is the big bridge over the Ohio River. And this is the bi-state project that will include the new I-69 bridge. So what does our timeline look like? The next slide will show the timeline. Section 1 is currently underway with, like I said, construction beginning to take place next year. But we still have several years to go before we see section 2. And right now it's slated for 2027. There's currently a lot of talk about infrastructure, like Demetra mentioned. So depending on how that falls out, that timeline may be able to be accelerated. And I know both states are looking for opportunities to accelerate that. So the next couple slides will focus on construction for section 1. We'll start in the southern end of the project and work our way north. So this is the conversion section on US 41. We will do several interstate upgrades, such as lengthening merge areas for I-69 merging onto the I-69 corridor. We will also increase some vertical clearance for overhead bridges that don't currently meet the vertical height for interstate standards. We will add an auxiliary lane between the Kentucky 425 and the Audubon Parkway, so it'll be 3 lanes through that short section. There was also a safety concern identified with the Kentucky 2084 interchange. There was not enough spacing between 2084 and 351 to meet interstate standards. So the Kentucky 2084 interchange will be removed as part of this project. The next slide shows the Kentucky 351 interchange, or 2nd Street for the locals. I gave a presentation, I kept calling it Kentucky 351, and afterwards someone raised their hand and said, "Is that 2nd Street?" I'm like, yes. So I know next time, refer to it as 2nd Street when you're in Henderson. But we will be removing the loop ramp in this area and converting it to a more traditional diamond interchange. However, we will have roundabouts at the ramp terminals to create a more free flow movement in this area. There will also be gateway opportunities for the city of Henderson at this interchange. The next slide is a video that shows how the roundabouts will operate in Henderson. The school, if you're familiar with this area, the middle school is on the left, and the Palmer's gas station is towards the center of the screen on the right side of the road. This design is representative, but it is still very conceptual. Commercial entrances, sidewalks, crosswalks, landscaping is still being worked out, but you can see some gateway opportunities even depicted in this video that the city of Henderson will be able to take advantage of throughout the median of this project and even in the middle of the roundabouts as well. Approaches to roundabouts are very critical for the design. It is intended to slow traffic down so that they enter in the roundabout at the appropriate speed. Striping is also very critical for roundabout design. It's intended to assist drivers to be in the correct lane before they get to the roundabout, so they're not switching lanes once they get into the roundabout. We also see several large trucks on this simulation, and this roundabout is designed to accommodate large vehicles. The gray area just inside of the roundabout is actually paved and will accommodate for off-tracking of large vehicles. So we understand the community will have quite a bit of an adjustment to get used to roundabouts. So I wanted to go over some of the benefits that roundabouts do bring. Studies show that roundabouts are safer than traditional stop signs and signal controlled intersections. Roundabouts produce a 70% reduction in conflict points. A conflict point is anywhere where two vehicles or a vehicle and a pedestrian have the opportunity to hit one another. So the next slide will show this in a little better detail. So for example, a typical four-legged interchange has 32 vehicle-to-vehicle conflict points and 24 vehicle-to-pedestrian conflict points. By comparison, a four-legged roundabout only has 8 vehicle-to-vehicle conflict points and 8 vehicle-to-pedestrian conflict points. In addition, since all the vehicles are traveling in the same direction at a lower speed, wrecks tend to be either rear-end in nature or sideswipe. So T-bones and head-on crashes are virtually eliminated. There's a 37% reduction in overall collisions, a 75% reduction in injury collisions, and the really important one is 90% reduction in fatality collisions. We do understand that, the roundabouts will be an adjustment for the community, especially with the school being close by. We plan on reaching out to the students and doing education, throughout the project as well. But we do believe that it'll be adjustment that will have long-term benefits for the community. Next, we'll move to the US 41 interchange. This is just further north, and this is where the interstate alignment leaves US 41 and heads cross-country north towards the river. This is also where phasing kind of comes into play. This slide shows in section 1, the interim phase is constructed without the bridge over the Ohio. Then the next slide will show after the bridge over the Ohio was built and traffic looking a little bit different. It was important to the project team to make the connection between the commercial corridor and I-69 free flow. So I-69 northbound to US 41 northbound and vice versa, US 41 southbound to I-69 southbound are going to be 2-lane free flow ramps. No stop signs, no traffic signals, no barriers to inhibit movement. Kinsey Lane is in blue and it'll be realigned through this area. We severed it with our project. It'll actually hop on to the existing US 41 roadbed and go down and connect to Van Wyck Road. The Merrill Way Trail, which is a pedestrian path, it's in green. It'll be extended. It currently dead ends at Kinsey Lane. There will be a tunnel built underneath US 41 and it'll connect to a parking lot off of Kinsey. The next slide shows the same interchange in section 2 after the big bridge is built. And section 2 will be modified slightly. We do anticipate some distribution of traffic to look slightly different. And we will make a local connection to Kinsey Lane and give interstate access that's currently not there to help support some local development goals. The next interchange is US 60. It's essentially the stopping point for section 1. And this interchange is largely constrained by 2 historic properties on the north side of US 60. And a major change from the beginning of the project till now has been the addition of more roundabouts. We originally designed this as just a traditional diamond interchange, but we were contacted by local leaders in the city and county of Henderson. They reached out to the project team and requested that we consider looking at roundabouts for this location due to developmental interest in the area. So, we saw the benefit and safety value that roundabouts can bring, and we absolutely, we were on board. So Henderson will go from 0 roundabouts to 6 after we leave the project. So we'll get through it. The community will still have direct access to Tillman Bethel Road. Currently, there's 5 lanes, if you're familiar with US 60, 5 lanes out to Waltham lanes. There's 2 lanes in each direction with a center turn lane. We'll continue that same typical up to this US 60 interchange. The last feature I wanted to highlight are the detention basins that we are adding to this project. They're close to the US 41 interchange, but they basically span that entire cross-country section from US 41 to US 60. The detention basins will be approximately 175 acres in size, and they will serve three purposes for our project. The first purpose will be to,
I'm in a silent, boring.
so the detention basins, you'll have it in your packet if y'all want to look at it, but I'll just keep going. The detention basins will serve approximately 175 acres and serve three purposes. The first purpose is the stormwater needs for our project. Every time you put down pavement and you increase the impermeable area, that has to be accounted for. So the detention basins are there to help account and manage that stormwater, and they will serve the need of our project. The second purpose that the detention basins serve is to provide fill material for the project. The road bed in that cross-country section is higher than the existing ground level, so we need to build that embankment up, and the contractor will be able to get filled right from the project rather than having to truck it in from offsite at a higher cost. The third purpose is to help address some existing flooding along Canoe Creek, just downstream of the project area. So we've essentially designed the detention basins to accommodate our project and then required additional storage on top of that to help alleviate some flooding along in that area. So I really see this as a community benefit, that's able to come out of this project. So what are our next steps? We went through some design features, but how are we going to get them? How are we going to make that happen? We currently have 3 design build teams pursuing this project, and it is actually a value-based selection process. 30% of the overall score is based on a technical proposal, and 70% is based on a price proposal. The technical proposal is 30% of the overall score, and it includes the team's unique approach to the project, any unique innovations or designs that they would like to use. It becomes scored and is 30%. We anticipate to select a team in December, with construction beginning in early 2022. Without knowing who the contractor will be, we don't have an exact location of where they will get started, but they will be somewhere along that corridor next year, breaking ground. And as I said earlier, the states will seek opportunities to help accelerate that section 2 timeline. Next, you can follow our progress on several of our social media sites. We try to do the best we can to keep the project or the public open or up to date on any changes that we have to the project. And that is all that I have for you all. Thanks so much for allowing us to come and speak today.
I want to thank you for your comments and for the work being done. I want everyone's excited about it. Obviously, this is a huge impact to the Henderson area, but also all of West Kentucky. So we look forward to that. We just want to give you a gift of appreciation for being with us today.
Thanks so much.
And for your introduction of Emily. That's right, for being the best chief district engineer in the state. I'll do that.
No, go ahead.
So while I have the microphone, just really quick, I know we're running past one just a minute, but this project will take a huge amount of resources, both workforce for the construction companies and also workforce from an engineering standpoint. And so one thing that Emily is also working on is an engineering consultant contract to help the cabinet, to help the transportation cabinet obtain additional engineers and inspectors to help inspect such a large project. This is a very big project. I've also let the consulting firms in our area know that stealing my engineers is not a good way to get the contract. So I've let them know when we base a selection based on how well we like working with the firm. I don't really like it when you steal my employees. So that's how we're working right now. But I know that you all, and I'll even speak for Todd County and the District 1 highway counties as well. we are having an engineering shortage in Western Kentucky. And so if any of you all, even if it's not in one of the District 2 counties, but if any of you all know of anyone in high school, a high school senior, or even someone that's out of high school and going to college to be an engineer, they can come work for us on an intern basis with an opportunity to come work for us full-time after they graduate college. So please reach out to me or one of the other district engineers if you're not in my district. But I'll even take engineers from counties neighboring mine. So just if you do have any contacts with your state or your high school guidance counselors or principals, please let them know that we're willing to take students and intern them throughout the college career. Thanks.
Everyone's looking for a job, or employees, aren't they, Sheila? Thank you, Denitra, Emily. As you said, it is a very important project for our entire region. All right, we had a great contingent of board members attend the NATO training conference in Portland a couple of weeks ago, and appreciate all those that did attend and showed support for our organization. And as we always do, as part of our board meeting right after that conference, we do allow any of those members that would wish to give a little report or share any tidbits that they might have received from the conference. So I'll just open it up. I see one person wave. I knew at least one would give a report, as she always does. So Mayor Yance.
It was, as Jason said, it was a great conference. I mean, it was a great opportunity for those of us that from our PeADD district to network with one another and be together and share ideas. But one of the things that, as you would suspect in a conference, is the discussion was on the pandemic, on COVID. And you could see the effects of it in the conference, because the attendance was probably a lot less than you usually would see. Some of the speakers that were supposed to come in did not have the opportunity to come in or had to cancel at last minute. So, this is something I think that we're going to see for a long time coming is, what COVID is doing, not only to our community, but throughout the United States. Another discussion that was on the ARPA funds and in which we are so fortunate here with our PeADD district to have Amy that is working on trying to get all the information she can for the ARPA funds for us. We also had, if you look in your newsletter, we have a very distinguished guest here with us, Arthur Green, because he led one of the discussion groups on how board members can be a benefit to your PeADD districts, and he might want to add more to it, but anyway.
He brought all his wisdom to the rest of the nation.
Right, yes. So, I mean, but that speaks very well, of Arthur and our PeADD district, if they would have somebody, from our area to do that. And the ones of us here, yeah. And so anyway, another thing was tourism, how it has affected tourism, on the indoor, but how, and I think we saw this firsthand in Portland, how the outdoor activity of tourism has been such a great economic boost for all of our areas. And then we had programs on SIDS, on the resiliency and recovery and how we're trying to recover from the pandemic. And they had a two-part session on that. So, but anyway, all in all, it was a great conference. Glad I had the opportunity to go. And if you ever have a chance to go, it's a very good conference to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Covered a lot there. Anybody else? Hey, can someone flip to the next slide, please? We would like to congratulate, and this is also in your newsletter as well, the city of Madisonville for being named runner-up of the NATO photo contest. And Mayor Cotton, you want to share anything about this photo, where it came from?
Well, this was part of our Thank You Park program, our team decided that 11 days before this picture was taken to transform the city park from park to a Texas Park light show. Kind of give an opportunity. You know, when this was done last year, we were told we're going to get together for Thanksgiving, we weren't going to get together for Christmas, and our employees wanted to do something for the community to get people out with their families, but safely in their cars. And we had over 270,000 people come through the city park. That was counted through a traffic counter as they came in the park. So it was a huge event and very successful. You can see the smiles on their faces as they travel through White Tunnel. This year we've expanded on it and added a few photo opportunities, a walking trail, things like that. Yeah. It was an honor to be recognized.
It is a very nice event, and Santa Claus is there usually at the end.
On Friday and Saturday night, Santa Claus will be there. There'll be another day that they are actually going to do a vendor day on a Saturday. So that's going to be in December. So those kids survive.
Thank you, Mayor. Next slide.
Oh. If you want to volunteer to be Santa.
I was just saying that, look at here, Mayor Green. We do appreciate you agreeing to moderate the session up there. Any comment? I'm not telling the real truth. Next slide, please. Okay, congratulations again to Jill and her staff. And one thing that I did not mention earlier, I don't believe, is the partnership that we have with PAX. I know you all were at their board, most of you all were at their board meeting earlier, and we couldn't have done, Jill and her team could not have done without the hard works of our friends over at PAX. So we do appreciate what they do as well. Next slide. Last thing on NATO, they have set the dates for the NATO Washington DC conference. You will see here that's going to be held on March the 13th through the 16th. And I know it's several months away, but if you are interested in attending that, please let Sherry or myself know. We are going ahead and starting that list, and we'll be looking at travel arrangements. Again, that's in March of 2022. We haven't been the last 2 years, so looking forward to have this trip come back around. Next slide, please, Tim. We've already talked a little bit about this today, so I won't go over this in any detail, but you all did see, I'm sure, the infrastructure bill that was passed over the weekend by Congress. As we understand right now, and I'm sure, as it's already been mentioned, that this is not officially law yet, but here's what we understand that this infrastructure bill could mean for Kentucky at this point, as it stands today. Obviously, as Denitra said, we do not know how these funds will be allocated out, whether it be some type of grant application or population-based. We just do not know at this point. But obviously, Amy and her team will be keeping an ear to the ground as it pertains to these funds, and we will pass along any information to you all that you receive. Mr. Transportation Chair, it's good to see you here, by the way. Is there anything you would like to add about this or anything else that has been said today?
I'll mention a couple of things in relation to this. I had the opportunity to be on a call with Secretary. And one of the things that comes out of me was there's going to be approximately 100 different programs, some of which counties and localities may be able to access directly. They're in the process of putting together what they call a booklet for local governments to see what the options are and hopefully respond accordingly. And of course, this comes on the heels of the ARPA money. In relation to that, it was mentioned earlier that the legislation to add flexibility to the law that's already passed. It passed the Senate, waiting action by the House, but it has the opportunity to allow a lot of direct local spending to be redirected, for example, for infrastructure projects. So that's something everyone might want to take a look at. And in relation to the Ohio River crossing, I mentioned one thing that we mentioned earlier, and that is that a couple of months ago, the Indiana governor decided to allocate $200 million to go ahead and get started with the approach on the Indiana side. Kentucky was making good progress. And so they expect to be contract for the Indiana approach side by December. So that is a really big deal because once you get both approaches expedited through a signed bill contract, ideally that puts a lot of pressure on getting infrastructure. So I want to make sure to mention that. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next slide, please. And then finally, which our chair has already mentioned, is our next meeting. And it's hard to believe that we're looking at December as our next meeting. So I am happy to report that, as it has already been said, that we will be meeting at Pennyrile Forest State Park, just outside of Dawson Springs, next month, Monday, December the 13th. I know Representative Petrie and Representative Prunty are on the line, so make sure you all have this on your calendar, please, but we'll be getting more formal invitations out very soon. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless there are any questions from the group. Thank you all for being here. It's good to see everyone. It's good to see the crowd today. And as always, let us know if we can do anything for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and I want to again thank all the award recipients from our area. Let's give our entire crew a round of applause. I've said it many times in the past, and I'll always say it. I believe we have I believe we have the best. One of the best in the nation is where I was headed, but the best area development district in the state of Kentucky. And it's proven year and year again because we always walk away with these national awards, and that recognition proves what I've always said. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Judge Whitfield, second by Scott Marshall. Thank you all.
Those attending the Pennyrile Rural Electric meeting, Judge Tribble, Judge White, Judge Curley, we're going to be over there in the executive conference room, okay? Executive conference room.